in this video I'm going to go over a few things that I've discovered here in the last, I don't know, a couple of weeks, and I've been testing and have a bit of update for you. First off, I tried a different tape. Actually, instead of using the blender, I actually cut the Dacron tape into about 9/16 wide strips and used the Dacron tape to secure the small batten, and you know, thinking that the wrinkles wouldn't be a problem or wouldn't be an issue, but as it turns out, that's doing the same thing. I think I have a pretty high fluctuation of temperature because I keep my shop at about 60 degrees, and outside it's anywhere from well, right now it's probably like 95 degrees, so it's pretty warm here in Florida. But anyway, the wrinkles, they're more cosmetic than they are affecting the flight performance. But I did run up on something that I really want to share, and something you can look at on your wing if it's not performing like you see the wing performing in my videos. Whenever I built this wing, yes, it looks really cool, it looks nice, but it did not fly. It did not fly up until I made one change. And the change I made was with regards to the length of this rod with regards to this section of the wing. Whenever I built the wing, all I did really was line the rod up with the trailing edge of the backbone, which in a sense is what you would do. However, because I wanted to make room in this area here so that you could slide the wing back or slide the backbone back and tighten this area up if need be, then that in sense brought this forward. Well, it didn't change the length of this rod, so now that rod should be sticking out past this as not to get up too close to this rod here. So whenever I finished the wing and I went out and flew it, I did notice whenever I went to slide the carbon in here, the tip on the carbon rod had a little difficulty passing this area, and it was because this rod was actually too long. So what I'm finding is that this rod needs to be about a ½ inch back from this leading edge. So if you've built yours and you've got it taped down already, and this rod is touching this piece of carbon, then what you're going to have to do is take what I used was an X-Acto knife, and I actually made a small incision or a hole where this rod could actually stick out. And then I held this and I pushed this so that the rod would stick out like you see here. And then very carefully I took a Dremel tool, and I used a lot of caution doing this because it is carbon and it is not a very good product to have floating around in the air, so you want to do this outside. But I went ahead and cut this off. So now I have about a ½ inch without this rod in there and this laying flat. The edge of this rod, the corner of this rod, is about a ½ inch back from this leading edge when this is flat. The other thing that I did was I took a small file and I rounded the edge of this piece of carbon, and because this is going to start moving back and forth now, and if that edge is sharp, it's going to immediately cut in. It's where if it's got a rounded edge on it, then it's not likely to cut right away into the tape. And once you do that, don't install the clip. Go ahead and fly the model, and then at some point you're probably going to notice that maybe the flight characteristics start changing. And whenever that happens, at that time, go ahead and try that spring clip. Stick that spring clip on and see if the performance comes back. Now, you can see on this wing, I did not have the spring clip on. And on this wing, I do have the spring clip on. And of course, this wing has over 100 flights on it. And this one here has less than 25 flights on it. This wing here is now performing exactly like that wing is. So I guess what I'm trying to tell you is check this area and make sure that this rod is a ½ inch back away from the edge. If it's not, go ahead and make an incision on the top side and cut it, and then round the edge of the end of the rod, and then you can actually take another piece of tape and lay over this and mash it down really good, and you should be fine. One other thing, you know, I talked about stitching, and the main reason for me doing the stitches is because over time the tape may start lifting anywhere where the rod is being worked. And an example of this is like, if you see right now, this is all down. There's no gap. But if we look at the one that I've been flying, this has like 125 flights on it now. You can see it's starting to lift there, and it's starting to lift here. So if I had brought my stitching all the way up to here, and all the way up to here, then this tape would still be down and not having lifted. So that's the main reason for doing the stitching, is just to make sure that stays. You can see in these areas here, all of this, the tape is still stuck really well to the material. One other thing is with regards to the build. If you're building your tail, now I was asked, well, does it matter if you have the carbon rods on the top of the tail or underneath? And I've built tails both ways, and I even on this tail I built it a third way. And what I did on this one was I put the straight rods on the bottom, and this curved or spring rod on the top, and it performs either way, whether you got the stuff on the top, on the bottom, or half of it on the top and one rod on the bottom, or in this case half of it on the bottom and the spring rod on the top. It doesn't matter. It's just whatever you want to look at when it's not flying, because you obviously can't see it when it's in the air. But the one thing I will tell you is, if we take a look here, excuse me, take a look here, you can see that this rod is up about 3/8 of an inch. In other words, this rod is actually walking or coming out. Now, like I said, this has probably 125 flights on it or better. And so this is what you're going to wind up with eventually. However, there's a way to eliminate that, and I did that on this one, and it seems to be working out okay. What I did was, you can do this as you're building the tail, or you can do it if your tail's already built. Don't worry about it. You can go back and do exactly what I did here, and you can see it looks just fine. The one thing that I did do was I took a little time to cut this edge of the tape so that it matches this line. The ideal setup here would be to have this piece of tape put on before you did this lower wrap. In other words, the tape that goes across and sticks on the back side. Put this piece of tape on first. That way you can start it down here and bring it all the way up. Now, what I've actually done was, when I put this down, I cut the tape a ½ inch longer than it needed to be. In my case, going from here to here. If you haven't built the tail, you're going to go from here up to here and make it a ½ inch longer. Go ahead and stick your tape down. Your rod is in the right place, and then take and roll the tape over the rod and stick the tape back onto itself. Whenever you do that, this rod is no longer going to be able to move out, and so therefore it'll stay where it needs to be. The other thing is, whenever I put this rod in on this particular tail, I only have the one piece of tape going around. It's where in the video I show, you put this on, and then you take another piece of tape and install this spring rod. Well, what I did on this one was, whenever I did the tail, I put this piece of tape on, and then whenever I got ready to put the spring rod on, I held the spring rod at these 2 points, and then took a pin and marked where the rod was hitting the tape, and then took a X-Acto knife and made just a small slit, just a little poke, so that I could stick the rod into that hole. And then I pushed the rod into the hole and let it come up to here, and did the same thing on this side. And then I went back later and installed this piece of tape, and so this rod is sticking into the tape on this side, but it does not stick out on the other side. So the rod is trapped within this piece of tape. And worked out pretty good. I only have this one piece of tape on the edge here, so a short piece of tape's not a lot of weight, but you know what, back here being so far away from the CG, it probably won't ever affect it, but you know what, it's a piece of tape that I don't have to worry about installing. It's a piece of tape I don't have to worry about coming loose. So, and then one last thing on this model here, this was one of the prototypes. Like I say, it's got quite a few flights on it. The Velcro. This is my layout. I'll put up a photo about right here to show you. This has several different pieces of Velcro. Now, one thing, this piece of Velcro back here, if you're going to make a night flyer, you're going to need this piece of Velcro here to secure your battery for your lights, because the lights that I'm using run off a 3-cell battery, and of course the model flies on a 2-cell battery. So I use a very small, I think it's a 180 milliamp battery, so it's about the size of the end of my finger there, and it sticks on here and it's fine. It works out really good. The other thing is my battery. I'm using a 1340C battery, and this battery is the perfect battery. I get 6-minute flights. I get 6-minute flights now out of both of these models, and like I say, this one has got 125 flights on it or better, and this one here has less than 25 flights, but if they both fly exactly the same. So the speed controller is mounted on this side, the receiver is mounted on this side, and this piece of Velcro right here, which is about, I don't know, 1.25 inches by inch high, it's covering this pocket, this little notch that's in the G10, and that's actually my launch point. In other words, when I get ready to launch, I put my first finger to where it's grabbing in that hole, and then I have my thumb in that hole as well. So I'm pinching the model right there, and because I have this piece of Velcro on there, it gives me some grip to the G10. So whenever I launch, I hold the model like that and launch it. So now, with this tape being like that, or the Velcro being like that, what I've decided to do on all the models that I'm building for myself is simply to go ahead and put a piece of Velcro, go from the front edge here all the way back to this open pocket at the rear. And if I'm going to make it a night flyer, then I would go ahead and add another piece of Velcro like you've seen on the other model that would go back to there. So my flight battery, one other thing about my batteries, I put the Velcro on so that whenever the battery's installed, the wire goes toward the top. Also, I use a 2-inch piece of Velcro, and I center the 2-inch piece of Velcro on my battery, and then whenever I mount my battery, I mate the rear side of this Velcro to this edge right here. So basically my battery sits like that. And now, I mash it down so I got full contact with my Velcro. So far I haven't lost any batteries, so I don't use a strap. If you want to use a strap, I guess you could, but I haven't seen a need. Of course, depends on the Velcro you're using too, but I will tell you, this blue Velcro from Hobby King works really, really well, and it's really inexpensive. The other thing, because I have this large amount of Velcro up front here, this allows me to place my low voltage cutoff anywhere I want to, and it's fairly light, and it's really close to the CG, so it's not really going to matter where I put it. It's just if I'm using a 1800 milliamp battery, then the battery might be up here a little ways, and if I didn't have the Velcro in all of this area, then I would be limited where I could put this. But because I have Velcro in the whole area, if my wire is long enough, I can move this anywhere I want. So again, Velcro all the way up, and then on this side, this piece of Velcro here, and again, that's just for the launching, so I have a good grip on my model. I don't think there's anything else I can share with you right now. I did want to make a point to let you know about this area here, and not to use the clip on your first few flights. If it's not performing, then you might add the clip and see if it changes, but more than likely it'll take a little time before you decide to try that clip or use that clip. But for the most part, make sure you have a 1/2 inch from this edge, whenever it's flat, from this edge to the edge of that carbon, so that this can move, because it needs to form this pocket for undercamber in order to perform like models have been performing.